everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Campagno here with my co-host Harris Faulkner. And also joining us today, Jackie DeAngelis, Lara Trump, and Guy Benson. Now we begin with the crisis at the southern border, the Biden administration's silence, and a new outrageous use of American tax dollars being sent abroad in the face of the shocking migrant influx. New York City coping with the crisis by setting up tent shelters on Randall's Island, complete with amenities, wait for it, that include Xbox game consoles, ping pong tables, fluff and fold laundry, and plenty of controversy. With residents housed in nearby homeless shelters, a stark contrast to the rundown conditions that they live in. Meanwhile, the situation at the southern border is spiraling out of control. In El Paso, Texas, the city's Democratic mayor is now denying that the White House asked him not to declare a state of emergency over the influx of illegal immigrants. But his comments at a city council meeting last month suggest otherwise.
Did the White House ask you not to declare a state of emergency?
Absolutely not. You know, one of the things I'm very thankful for the White House, the federal government, they've done a really, really good job of working with us and helping us to make sure we get funding to be able to do the job that border cities are required to do.
I had a conversation this morning or yesterday with the chief of the U.S. Border Patrol, Chief Ortiz, and he does not support declaring a state of emergency at this point. Our congresswoman has urged for us not to do that, and our county judge does not support that at this point. We may have to do that. I mean, there's going to be a point where we may have to do that, but at this point, and the White House has asked at this point for us not to do that.
But our president is staying silent on the border issue, instead turning his attention to other causes in South America. Fox News learning the Biden administration is funding drag performances in Ecuador, with the State Department awarding more than $20,000 to a cultural center to host drag theater performances in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, the State Department did not respond to Fox News' request for comment. Guy, there's so much to unpack here, so why don't I just get your top line thoughts?
Well, we can start with the El Paso, Texas controversy. It seems like this mayor down there is changing his story and has repeatedly. At first, it wasn't just him and the soundbite that we heard. Other members of the council were saying he came in and told us. The Biden administration basically phoned him up, said, please don't declare a state of emergency in your city. It would look bad politically. And it looks like there was a quid pro quo. That's at least my speculation, that they got a bunch of money that they would need to pay to deal with some of these migrants in exchange for not creating a political embarrassment, Democrat on Democrat, at the border. Now he's saying, at least yesterday I saw some quotes where he was denying that he did it for political reasons or that he bowed to pressure. He said, yes, they asked, but I agreed we didn't need to do that. The news story seems to be, oh, no, they didn't ask. I don't believe him. I don't believe almost anything coming out of this administration on an issue that they absolutely refuse to take seriously. And I think it's very telling that rather than really dealing on substance with the actual problem itself, they seem to be running around, as usual, preoccupied with optics that they're also bad at.
That's right. And the optics, Laura, are questionable. Whose optics or whose message are they continuing to amplify? It seems to be this very narrow sliver of the population, this progressive left, where they think that they can curry favor with the votes. Because it seems to me like taking that step back, that at the southern border, including this influx of migrants, so the administration is refusing to acknowledge an emergency that would help provide for a lot of children, a lot of unaccompanied minor children, in addition to a lot of American children that are getting resources diluted because of that emergency that is being denied acknowledging it as such. Yet the administration is happy to fund drag performances for children in Ecuador. It's fine if someone's money wants to go to that, but not my tax dollars under guise of this administration without telling us, without acknowledging it, right?
Well, that's the craziest part. This situation in Ecuador, so let me get this straight. So we are sending American taxpayer dollars to another country to support drag performances. This is our money. Why aren't we spending it here? This sort of thing, I think people find very, very upsetting in America when we see our money just being squandered and used for things that nobody understands. But the situation at the southern border, they can't call it an emergency, of course, because they would acknowledge what we all know it is. It is a complete disaster down there. You have such a bad situation now that the drug cartels are actually making more money human trafficking than they are on the drugs themselves. And you think about about all of the people harmed by that. We know what it does to our country, but these migrants, the people that they're bringing over, think about what is it, 59 people dead in the back of a tractor trailer, the horrors that these people have to endure to come here. You have this situation now where, you know, they're using Snapchat and Twitter and all of these different social media outlets to lure people to traffic for them, the drug cartels. It is just outrageous, but they can't call it what it is because they would acknowledge the disaster that they caused and they're continuing to cause to happen in America.
That's right. And, you know, bringing it home here in this city, Harris, on the way to work when I was walking here today and yesterday, I noticed that in a lot of the HD TV sort of billboards that rotate on the corners, there are a lot of information resources where we can donate to help the migrants that are in this town. Yeah. But I've never seen it for the homeless. I've never seen any ad here from the mayor that, again, our tax dollars fund these particular ads, saying, how can I help the homeless here and the shelters here? And reading about how the migrants have X game and laundry done for them, that's great. But the homeless are absolutely discarded.
The business owners were all locked down and they lost their business.
That's right.
To the tune of them becoming people who would need the resources that you're talking about.
Yes.
They haven't seen it for them either. And you can talk about the tranche of money that topped down from the federal government that was spent on COVID. But when you've had a mom and pop operation for 30 years and you can't stay open because you've been locked down for so long that reopening just doesn't even make sense anymore, that money didn't go to you. That wasn't PPP. That was, please help me, I'm folding. That would have been rescue money. But I want to get to this issue of the El Paso leadership. They started sending buses from there around the country. And when it looked bad for Democrats, I know, because I asked about it when I was in Texas. I said, well, and we really wanted to go down and see the mayor, but he was very busy. He's a Democrat. But what we did find from his office was, oh, no, we call the people before we send them. Well, you don't think the people in Martha's Vineyard didn't know that planes were landing? It's a small airport. You don't think they see boats coming the size of buildings, those ferries? Come on. They knew some of those people were coming. They had to have. And by the way, if you want to find some undocumented people, go to some of the islands like Martha's Vineyard, right? They don't even have enough housing for the people that they have there. But they need the workers. So it's an interesting conundrum that this White House has gotten itself into, because now we're 19 days out and they have to start to tackle some of these issues. I had Border Patrol president of the union down in Texas, Del Rio sector, tell me that as men and women are on their knees, they pull 200+ children out of the water this year. Dead. They pull people every day that they resuscitate. I mean, that's how bad the decision-making and policy has been out of this administration. Yeah. It's heartbreaking. We do have the heart to say, let's figure this out before we leave it all open. So what you have going on south of the border now, what you saw in Guatemala, you saw that the caravan is hitting Guatemala now. Our friends are being hit by our bad decisions now as we say, well, can you possibly just surreptitiously kind of keep them down there? But here's the last one. Yuma, Arizona. Mayorkas went there a few months ago, very, very quiet about this. It was July. And the president said, don't let them see that situation. Let's build a little bit of wall there. Did you know that they had built a little bit of wall in Yuma? Yeah. Yep. They could be building a little bit of wall everywhere along the 1,933 miles of border that we have.
Maybe a lot of bit of wall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of that already exists. They just have to stand it up.
Yeah, they got to take it out of the dust because it's rusting right now.
People to guard the portions of the wall. They had the supplies to build, but we spent our money instead of having people guard that section so that the supplies weren't taken away. They could have just stood it up and the wall would have been completed. It's insane.
Well, they quietly built that section because they were worried about how it would look, right? What the optics
they had to cover that up
when it came into, you know, how the elections would play out. And so they were worried about that piece, and that's what they fixed. I did see when they were doing that, but no one was talking about it. Nobody was talking about it except us. And what I think is really interesting about this is, you know, as a New York City resident, seeing these migrants come in, seeing the accommodations being made at the tents, It's upsetting because we have so many problems here. We're dealing with crime, we're dealing with businesses, we're trying to get our lives back up and running after the pandemic and this crushing time where we're not really seeing enough change. And so you say to yourself, wow, my taxpayer resources are going to this. At the same time, while that's frustrating, I do say it's not fair to leave them all at the border states, because this is a United States of America problem, not just, you know, 3 or 4 states that are dealing with it.
Can I ask just a quick question? What about Sheriff Arpaio when he was building tents?
Oh.
Was that a different situation? Because those tents that we have here are hard structured.
Yeah.
I mean, they're costing millions of dollars here. And I'm curious to know the politics of tent building.
I think those were a little less cushy, perhaps,
Yeah,
out in
he was
Arizona.
vilified for that.
I just want to say
And he
one
was
thing.
vilified.
And sued
for that.
for it as well, yeah.
I can just say one thing really quickly on the drag queen issue, because people are talking about this headline. I don't think anyone on this couch, I'll speak for myself, I'm not clutching my pearls over drag shows. This is not a fainting couch for me. If people want to go and have fun, knock yourself out, adults expressing themselves, that's fantastic. Zero problem. However, U.S. taxpayer foreign aid dollars, that's the question here. Not are drag shows okay, particularly for adults? Should U.S. tax dollars flow to foreign countries to fund them? Separate question.
That's right. But the theme of this administration is disconnect. It's disconnect. So our money goes to that. It goes to migrants instead of homeless. It goes to every which way, but who needs it in terms of priority, which include every state that's a border state, because right now every state is, and it's our American communities that are being absolutely destroyed and made worse by this administration's lack of policies and lack of spine. But this is Biden's America. Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.